Welcome to the podcast. Why do we have an emergency and an emergency buffer fund? This is the question we're going to be answering today. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, support the channel. Yeah, you can follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok. We are there to Be Bright Finance. So as you can see, based on the scenario you're looking at, this is somebody's monthly savings of 200. So if you don't know how we came up with that 200, you can go back, watch the previous videos, come up with your long-term goal. 200 you're looking at for the long-term goals, not for this short-term ones. So you should go back, watch the previous videos, come up with this monthly savings and investment amount. As you will see, after you have watched those videos, you'll have a clear target of the particular amount you target. It will depend on the scenario. For example, the scenario you're looking at, after we have calculated the expenses of this particular person X who's able to save monthly 200,000. So your amount may be differing from the one you're seeing on the screen if you watched the previous videos and came up with that. So now let us go to the question of the day. Why do we have an emergency and emergency buffer fund? So the first emergency fund you see there, I put MTN Investor. I looked at it best. I would recommend MTN Investor because of its accessibility. You can withdraw the money anytime you want because they recommend a minimum investment of 24 hours. It's small. Maybe even if you get the emergency within the 24 hours, you can get your money. Then on the emergency buffer fund, I would recommend uh, a bank, an emergency buffer fund which has the custodian bank with the same account where you have with the same bank where you have an account. For example, me there I put Stanbic because I have an account with Stanbic, so it will not attract any charges. They will not charge me anything if I'm transferring money from Stanbic to Stanbic, rather than if I'm transferring money from another bank into the money market fund account, this custodian account, from whatever bank you have an account with into this Stanbic account, they will charge you some money. So having an account with the same custodian, I don't know if other banks charge an amount for the same transaction between an account in the particular bank into a different account in the particular bank, but for Stanbic it's free of charge. They don't normally charge that particular amount. So Zeno also uses Stanbic. So if you have an account with Stanbic, you can use Zeno. So then, why do we have that emergency buffer fund account? So as you scale your knowledge, remember we are aligning risk. Let me just bring up our different assets that we're talking about right now. Remember, we are aligning risk with purpose. So if you look at the purpose of the investment funds is for capital growth and liquidity management. What I mean by liquidity management, that you can easily turn them into cash when opportunity comes. Remember, this is our first layer, and this is managed by a fund manager. But the true financial freedom lies in managing the asset by yourself. So while you're building the knowledge about these other assets, you'll be putting that small capital that monthly uh, monthly savings into this particular fund. Since this fund is liquid, once you gain knowledge in this of the rest of the assets and you understand them very, very well, that you're able to manage by yourself, you can easily move the money from that particular emergency buffer fund into the particular asset you choose here. And these investment funds also invest money in these particular assets you're seeing here, majority being treasury bills, treasury bonds, and equity, that is stocks. So that's the purpose of that emergency fund, the emergency buffer fund. So you'll keep say 50% of you'll keep 1 month of your expenses in the emergency fund, then the other 50% into the emergency buffer fund, and continue adding up, balancing between the two, so that when opportunity comes, you don't need to transfer money again from your emergency fund, which is on your mobile money, then transfer it to bank, which will attract another charge there. Let us do that only when we must do it in case an opportunity has come invest in these other assets that requires more money. That's why we have two emergency and emergency buffer fund. So I think that's why potentially we have those two. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Then we shall continue looking at this. Remember, as you can see here, investment funds are the first layer, and they are basically managed by the fund manager. And financial freedom, as I told you earlier, lies in managing by the asset by yourself. So as you scale your knowledge, remember you cannot go into something you don't understand here, because any wrong decision you make based on lack of knowledge, it will hurt you more. You rather remain in this emergency fund, grow as the capital grows, as you scale your knowledge, as you understand the other assets. So that way, by the time you invest in those particular assets, your money has grown, and you just move it freely to the asset that you have obtained understanding. Or you can find there are different investment advisors who can advise on which particular assets you can put in your money. So I think that's it. That's why we have an emergency and emergency buffer fund. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video where I'm going to be looking at another type of investment fund. Thank you.